Regarding the strikes, lockouts, layoff, retrenchment, this slide will be discussing about the strikes, lockouts, layoff and retrenchment. So as far as the strike is concerned, we know what is strike. So strike is nothing but the agitation made by the employees to work the particular employment due to some of the reasons, maybe that is affecting their work culture or the compensation package, or this is because of the dissatisfaction they arise in the workplace. As far as the general prohibition of strikes is concerned, we know no group of workmen, they may indulge themselves in the following five situations. That is, when there is a conciliation is being going on, that is a conciliation proceeding is already pending before the board of conciliation, and after 7 days has been incurred, then we cannot go for strikes. Then same way, any adjudication has been made before a labor court or a tribunal, and further from them 2 months has been passed off, or any appropriate government has already prohibited the continuation of the strike. So already strike has been done, and when there is a continuation, then the particular appropriate government may prohibit such an act, or any order has been sent to arbitration council and the arbitration is within the arbitrator, then 2 months or thereafter also the prohibition as of strike has been not to be done. So strike cannot be carried on such situation. So this is a thing. And suppose a settlement or an award is in the operation, so already you have received the settlement thing, or the award has been awarded to the particular employee, then we cannot go for the consequences. So we will talk about the prohibition of strikes and layouts with respect to public utility services. So section 22(1), that is, no person who is employed in a public utility service shall go on strike in breach of his contract. So they cannot do it without giving any notice. So notice has to be given, because we know public utility services will affect the livelihood of the public. So they have to give a notice, and that is within 6 months before they are going for the strikes, or after, if they are giving any notice, within 14 days of giving such a notice, or before the expiry of the date of strike. So already we have mentioned the date in the notice. In that case, before the expiry of the date already mentioned, they should not go for the strike. Or if there is, as I told you, any conciliation proceeding has been still pending in the arbitration or tribunal or conciliation officer, in such case also, unless there is a conciliation officer and 7 days after the conclusion of such proceedings. So this is with respect to strike in public utility services, section 22 subsection 1. So there's whatever notice is given, that strike notice is only valid for 6 months. So 6 weeks, we have to take that into consideration, and whenever they go for strike, prior warning has to be given. Then regarding the lockouts, so lockout in case of any public utility services. So here also, no employer carrying on any public utility services shall lock out of any workman, that is without giving them notice of lockout. So the employer has to give notice of lockout, that is within 6 months before locking out, or within 14 days of giving such notice, or before the expiry of the date of strike. So this is with respect to strike as well as lockouts, so specified in the notice. Or if there is any proceeding which is pending before the conciliations, then 7 days after the conclusion of the such proceeding. So this is with respect to section 22. Then regarding general provision of strikes and lockouts, section 23. So any strike or lockout has been prohibited. So the further slides which we have seen, that is with respect to public utility services. So here strikes and lockouts are being prohibited in any establishment. So whenever they are going for strikes or lockouts, it is to be called as a breach of contract. And when it is done during the pendency of conciliation, so the particular case has been referred to the Board of Conciliation, and the conciliation machinery has already working on it, then the particular thing is pending over there, then before a board after, and that is and 7 days after, or there is a pending case with respect to arbiter before arbiter, that is adjudication, and 2 months after that. So they are not satisfied, then they are going. Even in that case, there is a general prohibition of strikes and lockouts, or any settlement has been already issued. In that case also, if they go, so this is a revamping of what we have already seen. So no person should be knowingly finance, that is somebody is financing the strikes or illegal strikes or lockout, that is not at all allowed. So any lockout or strike which is declared on the consequences of any illegal strike or lockout, that cannot be called as illegal. Now, when the strike or lockout is called as illegal, suppose the purpose why the particular strike or lockout is being carried out, this is not on the cause of any economic or unfair labor practices or any unlawful means, then it is neither used, that is employer or the union, on the particular occasion or lockout. Then regarding here, what we say is that we are using the force or violence or coercion. You know what is coercion? We are threatening somebody. So already we have seen that about in the Indian Contract Act. So this is the purpose and means of when to call whether the strike lockout is illegal or not. Same with the Constitution recognizes that the right of the workers to strike only if the action is peaceful. So as far as the Constitution is concerned, they are giving their right. So the workers has a right to go for strike, but they have to carry it in a very peaceful manner according to the law which is set by the procedure set by the law. So that is what Constitution gives a right. Now illegal strike and lockout, section 24 and 25. So we are talking about illegal strike 24 and 25 here. So the strike or lockout, as I told you, can be illegal if it is commenced or declared in contravention of section 22 or section 23, that is with respect to public utility services. Same way we are going for a continuation. So already an order has been made. Still we are not looking into the order and still the strike or lockout is being done, then it is called as illegal. Same way if a strike or lockout is in accordance with the industrial disputes and it has already been commenced and it has been in existence at the time of reference of the dispute to the board, that is here board refers to the arbitrator or the labor court or the tribunal or the national tribunal. So all these things already we have discussed in the previous videos which has been posted by me. So if you have any doubt, please refer to those videos. So this is with respect to such strikes or lockouts, and it cannot be deemed to be illegal because already the procedure has been followed, and this particular strike or lockout was not at the commencement or in there, that is during the commencement, or it is in contravention, that is not according to this, in the opposite direction of these provisions, then this is not to be prohibited. Then same way a lockout declared in consequences of illegal strike. So a lockout has been declared because there is a illegal strike, and because of this illegal strike a lockout has been declared. Same way a strike has been declared in consequences of illegal lockout, then that shall not be deemed as an illegal. The things which you have to take into considerations. So as I told you, we have to be prohibition of any financial aid, that is very important. So under section 25, any person knowingly or applying the money directly or indirectly to support the strike is to be prohibited. So regarding the penalties or regarding strikes and lockouts, so under section 26(1), suppose the penalty for illegal strikes, suppose any workman who has already commenced or he is continuing or otherwise he is acting with respect to the strike which is already declared as illegal, he shall be punishable with a fine of rupees 50 or imprisonment for 1 month, or the case may be both. So it is based on the particular nature of illegal strike. Same way penalties for illegal lockout is also declared. So this is under section 26 subsection 2. Suppose any person who is continuing any such act which is illegal under say, lockout, or he is doing something which is contravening the particular section with respect to illegal lockout, then he is punishable. So the punishment is with respect to a term of 6 months or a fine of ₹1,000 or with both. Then regarding penalty for instigation, this is with respect to section 27. Suppose any person is instigating or he incites a part, that is he is instigating and he is instrumental for the strike or lockout and which is declared illegal, he should be also punished for a period of 6 months or a fine of ₹1,000, whichever the case can be, or it can be done with both imprisonment and fine. Then regarding penalty for giving financial aid, suppose somebody is giving financial aid, as I told you under section 25, any financial aid given for strikes, that is illegal strikes or lockout, should not be there and should be prohibited. Suppose somebody is warranting and doing that financial aid for illegal strikes and lockouts, in such case he is knowingly doing and thing, then in that case also he should be punishable with imprisonment of 6 months or a fine of to the tune of ₹1,000 or both. So this is with respect to legal strikes and lockouts. Then regarding the punishment, as I told you, if suppose a strike is illegal, then the party is guilty, then he is punishable under 26. That's what we have seen now. So even under illegal strike, a distinction has to be made between. But this is very important for understanding illegal but unjustified strike. Sometimes a strike cannot be justified, but sometimes strike may be illegal, but there is a reason to be justifying the strike. The reason behind is justifiable. Then we have to look into the cause of the strike. So when the strike is unjustified, it is being raised in contravention of any provisions of the act, or there is a demand and there is a behavior which cannot be justified for the cause of the strike, then it is called as illegal but unjustified strike. Same way, a strike is justified if it has been raised, there is a good cause, and if it is done in a very peaceful manner without affecting anything, then the particular strike, though it is illegal, can be justified. Now let us have a look out of the difference between strike and lockout. So strike, as we know, it is a weapon in the hands of the workers. Same way, lockout, it is a weapon in the hands of the employer. This is to pressurize the workman or to threaten him, the workman. That is with respect to lockout. Then regarding the strike, it is a cessation of a worker by persons employed in industry or making it in a combination, that is not allowing or not doing some work. Same way, lockout is nothing but it is a temporary closing of the place of work or suspending the work or withholding the work. Strike is a concerted refusal, that is somebody is refusing or any number of persons to continue the work or to accept the employment. So employment is being given, but workman is not willing to take the employment given, or they are refusing to take it out. But in case of lockout, it is element of demand, which the place of work is closed. So here the place of work is closed, but in case of strike, there is a work and people are not ready to accept the work. And regarding strike, it is a refusal under a common understanding of such persons. So it is under not an individual, it is a common understanding of such persons. But in case of lockout, an intention is to re-employ. If somebody is giving any demands, so the intention is to re-employ if the worker accepts the demand. So there is a demand, and if the employee is ready to accept the demand, then there is a lock. Then now we will move on to the essentials of layout. So layout is nothing but there must be a failure. So this is the essential what we should have in case of layout. There must be a failure, refusal or inability on the part of the employer to give employment to the workman. So there is a failure or there is an inability or the refusal. So this is in the case of an employer, he is not readily giving employment to the workman, and the reason should be on account of shortage of coal, power or raw materials, or sometimes they have lot of stocks with them. This is called as an accumulation stock, or due to some problem with the machinery, that is there is a breakdown of machinery, or due to some natural calamity which is not within the control of the employment, or some other reason which has some connectivity, and in such case the workman name should be on the muster rolls. So it is very important that the name of the employee is always on the muster rolls of the industrial establishment, and the workman should not have been retrenched. So this is the case of a layoff. So this is with respect to layoff. And a compensation for layoff. So as a workman has some rights. So according to 25C of the particular act is concerned, a workman who is designed to relieve the hardship that is caused by unemployment, because the fault of the workman is not in case of layoff, it is the inability of the employer to give employment. So in such case, the employee who is working, that is a workman, will have unemployment, and so it is based on the human public policy. There is a requisition for 25C, that is the workman must not be a budly worker, or he may not be a casual worker, and he should be entitled for compensation. And as I told you, his name should be there in the muster roll, and he would have completed not less than 1 year of continuous service. So that is very, very important. Suppose if he is employed for 11 months before layoff, in such case he cannot get compensation. So it is very, very important. So less than 1 year of continuous, so he should have completed not less than. So if he is having 11 months of service, then it will not be considered for compensation. The rights of workmen laid off for compensation. So on completing 1 year of service, suppose a workman is laid off, then he is entitled for a compensation that is equal to 50% of his basic wage and dearness allowance, which is payable to him. And if he is not being laid off, whatever the amount will be paid of 50% of his basic wage and DA should be payable to him as a compensation. And during this 12 months of his service, he is laid off for more than 45 days. In such case, no compensation to be paid in respect of any period after the expiry of first 45 days. So for first 45 days, he will be paid, and after that he will not be paid. And it is lawful for the employer to retrench the worker any time after the expiry of 45 days. So this it is the employer's decision to retrench or not to retrench. Same if worker is being retrenched, then compensation is payable to him for this layoff in the preceding 12 months. So that should be set off against the already. If he has received some compensation, then whatever total compensation is payable for his retrenchment, the difference will be only paid as a compensation. So he has got the right to set off against the compensation which is already payable or payable employee. Now regarding this retrenchment, the meaning is retrenchment is nothing but it is a termination of service of a workman for any reason whatever it is, but it does not include, so it excludes the termination by way of punishing somebody. So this punishment inflicted due to some disciplinary action or voluntary retirement, so this is not inclusive, it is only exclusive. Then retirement on reaching the age of superannuation. So this is not with respect to retrenchment, or when he is not renewing the contract of employment, or suppose he is having some ill health reason, then that is called as. Then conditions which is precedent to retrenchment of work in section 25F. So no workman who is employed in any industry who has been in continuous service, as we know, not less than 1 year under an employer, then if he is being retrenched by that employer, then that particular employer who is being employee who is being there in the industrial establishment, if he is a citizen of India, then he is belonging to the particular category of establishment, he has to produce for retrenchment. So this is the conditions which is precedent to retrenchment of a workman. So this is very important, we have to make a note of it. So 25F. So the workman who has already given a 1 month notice in writing, and the notice should indicate why he is going for retrenchment. So he can specify the reason, whatever reason is there. Suppose same way the workman, if he cannot be retrenched until the period of notice has expired, or he has already been paid in lieu of such notice the wages for the particular period of the notice. Though this is very very important and the condition should be followed. Suppose this condition is not followed, then the retrenchment will be called as illegal. Same way the workman, if he has been paid during at the time of his retrenchment any compensation, so that compensation should be equivalent to 15 days average pay. So the compensation what is being paid should be equal to 15 days average pay for every completed year of service, that is his continuous service. So suppose the service is not in round years, then if he has exceeding 6 months, that is he is having 12 years and 6 months, then it will be taken as 13 years. So this is the rounding of the figure if it is excess of 6 months. Same way, a notice has to be given in a prescribed mode and it has to be given to the appropriate government or the authority by the notification. So this is also to be mentioned. Then we'll talk about the procedure, how this retrenchment is being done. So now after procedure we'll talk about the difference between retrenchment and layoff. So regarding the procedure, it is coming under section 25G. Suppose a workman in an industrial establishment who is a citizen of India, if he is being retrenched and he is belonging to a particular category of workmen in that particular establishment, in the absence of, if there is no agreement, there is no agreement between the employer and the workman, there is no such agreement regarding this, then the employer can ordinarily retrench the workman who was the last person to be employed in that category. So in that case, if there is an excess of workmen, the person who has joined the service at the last, he can be retrenched unless there is an order of agreement between employment. So then in that case there is no reason to be specified, and in such case he can go. So that is the rule is, the principle is last come first go. So this is the rule which applies to the procedure for retrenchment. Now the difference between retrenchment and layoff. As we know, layoff is failure or refusal, inability of the employer due to shortage of raw material, coal, power, breakdown or machinery. But regarding termination here refers to the, it can be due to dismissal or retrenchment or completing the contract, or suppose they are not renewing the contract. This is called as being a part of retrenchment. So termination is always not negative. So all these activities here, retrenchment or dismissal or or non-renewal of contract, is not any negative concept here. So this is with respect to differentiation and layoff. Now the procedure for layoff is, in case of natural calamity, as I told you, there is no need to get permission for layoff the employee under section 25M. Then regarding appropriate authority, permission is necessary in case there is no shortage of raw material like coal or power, or there is much stock already we have produced and the stock is there, then that is accumulation of stock. So in that case also appropriate government authorities permission is required, or the machinery is not working properly, there is a breakdown of machinery. So these are the reasons which for which they have to get the permission from the appropriate authority. If there is a natural calamity, in such case there is no need to get required permission from government. Now the difference between lockout and retrenchment. So as we know, lockout is temporary measure as well as, but in case of retrenchment it is a permanent thing. Then there is a relationship, that is a lockout, the relationship of employer and employee is only suspended. So it is not coming to end in case of lockout, but in case of retrenchment it is coming to an employer. That is retrenchment, the relationship is no more. Then the motive is, lockdown is motive is to just to fear the employee or to compel him or to threaten him. That is the reason for lockout. But in case of retrenchment, as we know, when there is a more surplus of employee, to use out the surplus, the retrenchment is being carried out. In case of trade dispute, lockout is always due to an industrial dispute. But in case of retrenchment, as we know, there are some reasons, so there is no such disputes. So this is the things. Now the same difference we'll have it. So retrenchment is permanent, lockout is temporary. So this is with respect to understanding. So I have put the particular slide in the difference mode. Then regarding the penalties for breach of settlement or award. So regarding punishments, as I told you, which is for 6 months or with a fine, or sometimes it may be continuing, then the fine may extend for 200 for every day the breach continues after the conviction. That is the first time. Suppose the court is trying the offence, and if the court is fining the offender, and they also may direct that the whole or whatever the part of fine which they have realized from him shall be paid in the form of a compensation to the person who has been injured or who has suffered due to the breach. So that penalty can be